of the basic operations of quantum theory. We're talking about, and a lot of this has come from Henry Stapp. I don't know if you know him, he's at Berkeley, but he was one of the people who 20 years ago told very critical stories about why classic physics does not or cannot explain our experiences. You know him, and so what he said was that there are several processes besides the one that von Neumann created as process 1 and process 2. So he identified process 0 here as the measurable observables, which I put into a thought bubble because this is where we experience. And this represents the pattern of action, energy times time. I'll stop for a second and say that the other thing I'd like to say to physicists, stop thinking about energy as being so important. It's action. Action is the thing that is the thing. Energy is the rate at which action is flowing through your now space, this space in front of you, your personal now space. Something is flowing through it. Action is the concept that you need to adopt as the more fundamental. Energy,
how about information is more fundamental instead of
action? Information is an encoding of things. Action itself is the most fundamental. We can imagine that as flowing. At any rate, our linear system now takes action, puts it into an explanatory equation, generates the explanation that it's a wave function. What I've done here is shown that this wave function here is what I would call, or physicists would call, the Hilbert space. The Hilbert space in a tangible level are the detector cells that separate you, your experience, from the supposed world out there that is being measured. Your Hilbert space in the situation that I normally describe, which is optical, is your retina. That's the border. That's the Hilbert space. And that is what theoretically we assume is being oscillated and moved, in which tangibly we can visualize. I'm saying visualize because there's a big difference between visualizing something and the theory behind it. Is the quantum field. The model that we have of the universe is contained in this unitary transform, which is the time transform. It produces a new set of oscillations in the Hilbert space, which is used by a measuring process that in turn then reproduces new observables that we can see. And so the architecture of quantum mechanics is fundamentally a cycle that moves us from experience through an explanatory process, which may or may not be right, and certainly can be updated, into a model which in turn is accessed through a measurement procedure to then make predictions about what we expect to see in the future. And I believe you are running such a model, whether or not quantum mechanics is exact or correct. I believe it's a linear approximation to the correct theory, but nevertheless, it's the beginning of the knowledge that it's a cycle of activity rather than objects out there that are the basis and foundations of our new approach. To expand that a little bit, this actually is, again, for Henry Stapp. He defines a process 3 as the question the scientist asks. question the scientist asks through is the construction of the experimental setup. In other words, you construct a Hilbert space that defines your experiment, and that's the method by which you ask the question of nature. What that does in the theory is it controls the parameter in the Hamiltonians. That Hamiltonian, from a symbolic point of view, then runs the process through the wave function and gets out the answer in your observable result. So Henry Stapp says this is the cycle. I generate my experiment, I measure nature, I get a result, I explain it through the cycle. And now I want to ask, now this is the foundational part of the talk. Now I'm going to go on to some other things and I didn't go much time.
You've used 19 minutes, so you ought to be about halfway through.
Okay, all right, there's two, let me